Welcome to another edition of Live at the MACC, coming to you from the beautiful Castle Theater at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center. The Live at the MACC series launched back in 2020 as an attempt to offer a respite during this seemingly never-ending pandemic, while bringing an hour of joy to our community through the arts and various art forms. Now, with the continued support of the County of Maui and the Mayor's Office of Economic Development, Live at the MACC continues well into 2021. The series is designed to bring much-needed opportunities for many of Hawaii's artists in a series of virtual or in-person events, all presented in a safe environment, all presented free to you, our MACC ohana. Tonight's Live at the MACC features Hawaii's first Youth Poet Laureate competition. Aloha.
In life, we learn to love how to drown. 4 a.m. sirens, and we learn to love the sound. Learned our cold water sons and daughters how to become scholars, make martyrs out of assessments, exit tickets, and grade markers until they learn to drown out the sound of institutionalized oppression and systems with the intention of keeping us on the ground. We read the clouds and watched the storm form from home. But rain does not fall on one roof alone. In the safety of the sun, students like seashells on the sand raised hands cupped in silence and hear their own names in the sound of the shore. My students shared themselves whole ocean open, knowing these moments emboldened, knowing these moments I am not student nor teacher, just free. Rewrite the past, we write the future.
So use the bottomless voice of your words to be heard. Grab your pen like a life preserver, wear your scars like a life jacket and swim like this. Stroking ink through the blank pages of your life's untold story, yet unwritten, I say swim like this. For the safety of that far distant shore, no matter how far you think it is, I say swim like this. Even if Poseidon himself should swallow this entire city to the icy abyss of his gullet, I say never let up, I say never look back, I say swim like this, so that your story will forever live on.
Wow, thank you, Travis and Ittai, for starting off the night with such strength and power. We know that it's been a challenging year for many, and we are so grateful to be able to share in such a wonderful series to support and name Hawaii's first Youth Poet Laureate. First, I want to thank you all for being here tonight, the small few who are here physically, and to all of you who are joining us virtually. I want to thank all of the teachers and parents for supporting their students in writing, sharing, and joining our weekly workshops for the past 5 months. And most importantly, I want to thank the young people, thank the young poets for being here, for sharing your work, for sharing your light. We are looking forward to an incredible evening, and we know that tonight is only a small sliver of what is to come from you all.
Aloha mai kākou, and welcome to the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, where today we are celebrating the Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate program, and we will honor Hawaii's very first Youth Poet Laureate.
My co-host for today is a 2-time international Brave New Voices Youth Poetry Slam champion. You may have seen him on HBO or in a classroom near you. He has recently received his master's in education from the University of Hawai Mānoa. I present to you Kaulula's very own Ittai Wong.
Mahalo, Travis, and it is my honor to introduce my co-host and mentor, Travis Kaululā Thompson. Coming out of Kalihi Valley, he is the co-founder of Youth Speaks Hawaii and founder of High Poet Society. Please give your attention to Travis Kaululā Thompson.
First up is a local boy from the Big Island by way of Lanai and Wailuku. He is possibly Maui's most well-known soccer dad, father of retired 2-time MLB All-Star and former Maui County Council member. We give you Mayor Mike Victorino.
Hello, everyone. This is Mayor Mike Victorino. On behalf of the people of Maui County, it is my honor to welcome you to this historic presentation of the Hawaii's first Youth Poet Laureate selection. I want to thank the Maui Arts and Cultural Center CEO Art Vento and the Educational Director Dr. Maura Perch for bringing this important program to Hawaii in collaboration with the Urban Word out of New York. Tonight's event showcases the state's most gifted literary artists between the ages of 10 and 18. The nation's first Youth Poet Laureate, Amanda Gorman, performed her poetry at President Biden's inauguration earlier this year, and touched the hearts of all Americans. She reminded everyone the power of poetry. Poetry is especially moving when it's expressed through thoughts and feelings of our youth. Since texting has replaced much of our conversations these days, we have gotten so used to communicating through adverbs like log or ttyl. So it's no surprise that we are discovering a new appreciation of the spoken word as an art form. Hawaii and all of Polynesia shares a long, proud history of honoring the spoken arts. So it's fitting that these talented young poets are honored on this stage here in Maui tonight. Congratulations to each poet, to their parents, families, and to their teachers for the excellence they are about to enjoy. To all of us, say mahalo, have a wonderful evening, and enjoy all these wonderful Youth Poet Laureates. Aloha.
Up next, we have some uplifting words of encouragement from one of our esteemed judges. But more than that, she is the director of the National Youth Poet Laureate Program and a former celebrated youth poet herself. Here is our first judge, Dr. Camea Davis.
Hello, my name is Dr. Camea Davis, and I am the National Director of the Youth Poet Laureate Program. The National Youth Poet Laureate Program, an initiative of Urban Word, celebrates our nation's top poets who are committed to artistic excellence, civic engagement, and social impact. Founded in New York City in 2008, the Youth Poet Laureate Program partners with local and national literary arts organizations across the country to elevate youth voices at the forefront of social change. Program partners and supporters include the Academy of American Poets, the Library of Congress, the Poetry Foundation, the Ford Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Youth Poet Laureates have touched every media outlet and major stage in the country, including at the United States White House and on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. To learn more about our work, please visit www.youthpoetlaureate.org. In my role as National Director of the Youth Poet Laureate Program, I have adopted a few wisdoms along the way. And as all of you poets who have applied to become the inaugural Youth Poet Laureate of Hawaii, think about yourselves, your communities, and your futures as Youth Poet Laureates. I'd like to offer you a few pieces of wisdom. The first is from Audre Lorde, who said, "Your silence will not protect you." Think about that. Your silence will not protect you. So I implore you, all of you young poets and emerging writers, to speak your truth, to say the thing that you think needs to be said, and to say it in the right moment, because your silence will not protect you, but it can save and help and serve so many other people. So please use your voices and lift them high. Continue to write and to do your work that you feel is necessary. Secondly, is to read well. To be a great writer, you must be an avid reader. Read everything. Read different genres of writing, different types of books. Read the news, read media outlets, read tons and tons and tons. Find the things that make you smile. Find the things that keep you up late at night wondering what the next chapter holds, and continually read. Read stories that are different than your own lived experience. Read things from different cultures and different communities and different places in the world to broaden your own perspectives. And in your reading, you will find tools as writers to build your craft and to build your message. So always read, read, read. And lastly, I'll close with a piece of wisdom from ancestor, mother poet, the extraordinary Maya Angelou. One of my favorite quotes from Maya Angelou reads, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style." And I love this quote because it makes me smile. It makes me think about the work that I'm on this planet to do. And it's not merely to survive. It's not merely to resist. It's not merely to work against oppression, but to thrive, to find those places where you shine and where you stand above and you represent your community in beautiful ways. And to do it with passion, compassion, humor, and style. So I implore you, all of you young poets, emerging writers, and the future inaugural Youth Poet Laureate of Hawaii, I invite you to continue your missions as you are becoming civic leaders, to make sure that you are not only using your activism to resist or survive, but that you use it to thrive. And you use it to uplift the voices of people that may not ever have the platform that you have, that you always use it for your community to amplify the stories that may not have been told at this stage just yet. So continue to speak, continue to use your voices and not to be silent. Continue to read and gather more and more tools for your craft. And finally, live a life of passion, dedicated to thriving, compassion, and find places to laugh, to have humor in your daily practice, and do so with some style. I wish all of you great success, no matter who is announced as the winner today. You are all winners. Congratulations on completing the fellowship. Congratulations on making it to this point.
A sincere thank you to Dr. Davis for bringing Audre Lorde and Maya Angelou energy with her into today's event. Please don't forget to check out her tireless work with this amazing program at www.youthpoetlaureate.org.
The first youth poet of our showcase today is Youth Poet Laureate finalist Lua Bowman. She will introduce herself and her poem about waiting to be heard and never forgetting. Please welcome to the stage, Lua.
My name is Lua Bowman. I represent my ancestors and my people. I am inspired by my ancestors and their powerful grit. I believe in achieving dignity, power, and freedom for my people. Thank you. My name is Lua Bowman, and the title of my poem is I Will Be Free. I await the day when I will be heard louder than the conch drums of my motherland, a sound louder than the gun triggers that are pulling us, a sound louder than the gunshots that are fired at us. I await the day when I will be heard louder than the images of my ancestors in my history book. The same ancestors who leaped off their ships knowing sunken death outwitted a lifetime of bondage. I await the day when I'll no longer be obliged to hold up the weight of the world, while simultaneously taking my ancestors' whip lashes. I await the day when I no longer have to render aid to my battered black pain. I await the day when I no longer be treated as a beacon to those who treat my blackness as their jester, and a beacon to those who disrespect me like the white law. I await the day when I'll be heard louder than my ancestors' full lips, the same full African lips that once spoke kingdoms into existence. While my DNA is stolen, duplicated, and injected into the savior of mankind, may we never forget our freedoms that were accomplished through lifetimes of pain. May we never forget the powerful grit our skin has bred us through in history. May we never forget our passionate resolve that our skin will never refrain from doing. May my people one day be heard. May I one day be free. Thank you.
Our second youth poet hails from the island of Oʻahu and has a poem for us today about the power of names and chosen identities. Here is Youth Poet Laureate finalist Julia Leong.
Aloha, my name is Julia Leong. I'm a freshman at Puno School in Honolulu, Hawaii. I love to dance ballet, read, and travel around the world. I'm very excited to share my poem with you. I am inspired to enter in this competition by the poems spoken by Amanda Gorman. My poem I'll be reading to you is called Claim to Fame. When I was born, my parents gave me 3 names, Laifong, Shizue, and Julia. Each name represents a part of my ancestry. All my names are special to me. It is part of my chemistry. Laifong was chosen by my father. It represents my Chinese culture. Laifong means effervescent and persuasive, which is definitely creative. Nobody calls me this name, which is quite a shame, because it truly represents who I am. When I take, I stand. Shizui was my great-grandmother's name. It represents my Japanese culture. Shizui means quiet. But I am the opposite because I am a riot. This name connects me to my past, but it will not be the last. Julia means youthful and downy. My mother chose this beautiful name for me. This name was envied by my older sister, who's actually not that bitter. My father wanted to name me Lily, but it wasn't the right name for me because it sounded silly. Everyone who knows me calls me Julia. This name is my chosen name, which will be my claim to fame. Thank you.
This next speaker is a special guest who sent us her video all the way from New York City, and in this video she shares a few thoughts about poetry, success, and how every living thing on this planet is actually a family member of Earth. It is with great pleasure we present to you the current National Youth Poet Laureate of the United States of America, Meera Dasgupta.
Hello, Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate finalists. My name is Meera Dasgupta. I am 17 years old. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am the current United States Youth Poet Laureate with Urban Word NYC and the National Youth Poet Laureate Program. Currently, I am based in New York City, which is why I was so excited to read all of your wonderful poems, because I truly believe that it goes to show how poetry and art can traverse oceans, languages, time periods, and land masses millions of miles apart. And I'm just also so grateful for all of you for being so vulnerable within this time, because I truly believe that I got to know a little bit about all of you as well while reading your poems. So thank you for that, and thank you for inspiring me within this virtual space over and over again. So some advice that I have moving forward. I know all of you are so nervous about today, but I wanted to also say that the title does not make you, and that all of your voices matter despite it. Because first of all, success looks different for everyone. And in a way, I believe that by putting yourself out there and by living your truth every single day through your art, or just by living your own lived experiences, is just so powerful. So I just want you to know that you are valued and that you are loved within this artivist community that you're now a part of. So another thing in terms of community that I want to talk about is that Urban Word has been championing young voices and has been empowering marginalized communities for decades. So you are coming from a long line or lineage of giants in literary expertise, and you are the future generation of this, because you are so capable of taking up space and positions of leadership. And I believe that this is your moment. Youth are leading movements, and you are a part of these movements and this newfound family. Because for me, poetry has been a way for me to express myself. And sometimes it's not even for audience consumption. Sometimes I write for myself as well. And I think that the most empowering part of this experience, being the National Youth Poet Laureate or the New York City Youth Poet Laureate, were the people that I met. Because they're the ones who motivate me to continue to do the work. And they're the ones who I call and text when I want to create a new project, or if I wanted to discuss political issues or what's happening in the world. And I think that all of you have just gained such an amazing family, and know that Urban Word and this new community in Hawaii that you found yourself in is just going to be potent and is going to be a product in creating new horizons and in shaping the future of this country, but also the future of the globe internationally. So speaking of the world and the state of the world as well, I wanted to read a poem to all of you titled Lineage in honor of Earth Day, because I've been in upstate New York, so I've noticed how nature has been changing as we've all been at home. But I've also tried to acknowledge the fact that our house is still very much burning. The climate crisis is still occurring, and we need to hold our current leaders accountable for that. And I hope that you gain some inspiration for yourselves as well, because reading your poems, I noticed that all of you are so passionate about your own issues and advocacy work. And I hope that you continue to write about that and push for reform, because we desperately need our systems to change. And I know that all of you are going to be the future to fix that. Lineage. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. A Native American proverb. There is a mother here. Her skin has known the salt of broken oceans. Her hands have traced the sun until it became her. She learned respect from a father and his hands, how the bones of dead flowers made their garden a burial ground. Her body was her family's burial ground, her mouth an untamed flame. It escaped and left her with a vase. In it her reflection appeared and shattered. There is a brother here. He has been taught to breathe air as dark as his skin. There are no lights in a city of stars that do not reach him. Some days he feels paper weight. In his dreams he is flying. He's forgotten the smell of grass and his mother. He's forgotten the sounds of the wind, what it means to fly. In his dreams he carries a star in his pocket, but it burns from the inside out. It reminds him of himself, that there is a burning within him. There is a father here. He overflows into his mother's garden. Her flames lick his stubborn skin as he swallows the ocean whole. He writes odes to himself until his blood becomes a dead rose. And as the sea levels rise, as they run like a crimson-mouthed psalm, as children curl like wayward leaves, as storms shake their sea blue hands, as these hands overturn burial grounds, as burial grounds become his mother, a father becomes a son in mourning. There is a daughter here. She's been taught how to sustain on seas, but to never settle for them, to treat the grounds how she treats her body, to till the earth until she too is the sun. When morning arrives, she finds the shattered reflections of her mother and recalls the pieces. Countless oceans converging where she stands, you can hear an echo of lineage, the sound of 1,000 daughters, mothers, sons, and fathers, how they become a garden, how their voices bloom among the scattered bones and carry like seeds to wind. Thank you.
The next performer to the mic is a youth poet whose poem is an Ars Poetica, a poem about poetry. Please welcome Youth Poet Laureate finalist L. Kensington Ono.
My name is Lyric Kensington Ono, and I represent Punahou School on the island of Oʻahu. I'm inspired by the vibrant people and cultures around the world that I have been lucky enough to visit and interact with. I believe that the words of the writers who came before me have power. When my mother was pregnant with me, she used the Sylvia Plath poem, Metaphors, to announce my impending arrival. So I'm sure this is what inspired my love for poetry and the written word. My name is Kensington Ono, and my poem is titled Not a Sonnet. Go, my teacher says, go and write a poem. It must have stanzas and couplets and imagery and rhyme, except if you don't want it to rhyme, then don't make it rhyme. Poems don't have to rhyme. It must have meaning and allusions and meter and time, but it doesn't necessarily have to keep time. It might be better off without it. I idly stare at the blinking cursor on my blank page. Is a sonnet hiding in the keys, or a limerick, or a ballad? No, definitely not a ballad. Those ramble on. Maybe a sonnet. I could probably do that. Okay then, a sonnet. But Italian or English? What? There's Spenserian too? Not a sonnet then. Just a poem. Simple, succinct. One that tells a story and maybe has a simile here and there. Writing a poem is like surfing. You wait and wait for the wave to come, and when it does, it spills over you and onto the page. Thank you.
Our next youth poet is 17 years old and zoomed her video to us from Oʻahu in order to share her poem about hilo eats and family trees. Introducing herself and performing her poem entitled A Street Somewhere in Hilo, here is Youth Poet Laureate finalist Shay Noland.
I'm Shay Noland, I'm 17 years old, and I'm from Oʻahu. When writing my poetry, I'm most inspired by nature and the people around me. You ask me what you are, but child, I do not know. You inquire stories, the ones I wrote, but no clarity walks with these tales. Enjoy your lumpia, sweet girl, sink into the buns, slurp the papaya-stained soup, and wrap your musubi. Your mother is mine, so you are us, no need to doubt. Why question your roots when you have grown from the vine and crawled from your heritage's womb?
Up next to introduce herself, share her inspirations, and perform her poem, Ode to the Weed in the Concrete, we present youth poet Mia Peterson.
Hi, my name is Mia Peterson. I live on Oʻahu. My poetry is mainly inspired by raw emotions in nature, so I hope you like it. This is my poem, The Weed in the Concrete. Ode to the weed in the concrete, the weed that we ridiculed, the weed we named useless, the weed we avoided. Ode to the weed in the concrete, the one we never noticed, the one we meant to pull. Ode to the weed that pushed through the asphalt of disapproval, defying the cold, stiff blocks surrounding and flourished with no soil in sight. The weed that took the limits and cast them away, the weed that grew when it was told it couldn't. Ode to the weed, because we're all cold, stiff, solid blocks of concrete. We accept the limits, we accept the possible, we fit in and make do with what we have. Creating a sidewalk, strong but plain, long-lasting but lifeless. So ode to the weed in the cold gray world of concrete people, who was shunned but brought color, who was ridiculed but brought life, who was told to give up but brought hope. Because all it takes is one weed for a garden to grow. Thank you.
Our next performer is Youth Poet Laureate finalist Harley Walters, whose poetry captures the difference between the confines of the classroom and the spirit of possibilities.
My name is Harley Walters. I represent my family and those that I love. I am inspired by the best of times and the worst of times, because those are the moments that give life true meaning. I believe in the power of writing to act as a vessel for the thoughts that live in my head. My name is Harley Walters, and my poem is entitled Free Spirit. The spirit inside of me yearns to be free. It craves to know more than dull pencils and crumpled notepaper stuffed in a backpack. More than the clatter of keys underneath my tired fingers and the filling in of bubbles on a test decorated with tear splatters. It desires to explore past the 200-pound textbooks and 5-page analytical essays on countries I will never visit. Past the weekly mental breakdowns and the dark bags that droop beneath my blue eyes. The spirit inside of me yearns to be free. Running down sandy shores as the sky glows orange and pink, the soft waves chasing after me, the water wrapping around my ankles. Running down cracked pavement under the cover of night, guided only by twinkling city lights and the glow of the moon. Driving down open country roads with the windows down, feeling the whip of the wind in my hair, gulping in the fresh air. The spirit inside of me yearns to be free.
This next video is from Youth Poet Laureate finalist Rachel Wagner. After a brief introduction, Rachel shares a poem about picture-perfect self-image insecurities and toxic beauty norms. Here she is.
Hi, my name is Rachel Wagner, and I'm a sophomore at Punahou School on Oʻahu. I am inspired by big creators who had big dreams and worked really hard to achieve them and their goals. I feel like that is what I try to convey in my writing, is a lot of my ideals and what I want to achieve. And so I think that is exemplified in a lot of my poetry. The girl in the mirror. She messaged me this morning asking, "Can you tell me if I look stupid?" But the picture that followed was nothing close to it. We trust each other to be the ultimate judge of, are we good enough today? Are we presentable? Do you think they'll like us? Did we do enough? And though she would never be stupid to me, where she's coming from is nothing foreign. We've all done it before. We can easily see it, second-guessing everything, switching out your shirt into something you never would have bought on your own, but it was a gift from someone who said, "That's what everyone's wearing now, you know." Curling those eyelashes one more time before you look into that mirror at the end, and staring back at you is a girl who you will never be truly satisfied with. But you leave anyway. You leave the girl that you used to know, used to be, staring out from that mirror for a while, leaving her wondering when you will see her again, truly see her again, and smile. So when she messaged me this morning, I said, "I don't think you look stupid at all. Why would you look stupid?" She just said, okay, acting like she was eternally grateful, showing appreciation in all caps, yelling thank you through the screen, like I had just saved her life. And in a way for her, I did. Because the world isn't so forgiving as the mirror is. And as soon as you step out, your newfound confidence you had struggled to build up inside just washes away much quicker than it arrived. Oh, and here they come. Insecurity after insecurity after insecurity after insecurity. High school movie cliches are not always true, but that doesn't mean those things can't happen too. People talk, and the goal of anyone is just not to be the subject. Please, please don't let me be the subject. So if that girl gives you an invitation to a party that's so restricted, or she offers you a red Solo cup filled halfway with bitter liquid, or says you would look so much better if you just cut your hair a couple inches, we remember that girl in the mirror, just for a moment. And some of us, she lets us know we shouldn't do it, and we leave her door open. But some of us, the mirror shatters, the door shuts, and she cries as she realizes that we'll never see her again, and she can't protect us anymore from the shards of glass that is all over the path we're going down. But even then, we keep walking and walking and walking, not realizing the blood trickling down the bottom of our feet, not noticing the pain, not until it's over, not until it's too late. All around us are ways that the glass can break. Advertising, celebrities, social platforms, clicks, movies, all showing the picture of the picture-perfect girl. That's what they say your reflection should look like. That's who the girl in the mirror should be. Forget the one you know. She's not worth your time. But no one should have to leave her behind, trapped in a glass box, watching as you get farther away. She should be there in the back of your mind every step of the way. In the picture-perfect world of the picture-perfect girl, I want her not to ask me if she looks stupid, but to tell me, I felt beautiful today, like I could take on the world. I want her to be able to walk around floating on a cloud like the angel she is, and feel like she could do anything without the fear of being judged or whispered about behind her back. I want us to be able to look at that girl in the mirror and smile and say, wow, now that is me. Thank you.
Aloha mai na haku mele, aloha mai kako poets. My name is Brandy Nālani McDougall, and I want to begin by congratulating all of you for your beautiful and moving poems, and for listening to your na'au guide you toward poetry. Ho'o mai ka iloa. You are all a part of a long legacy of poets living in our beautiful islands. Like the poets before you, you get to live in one of the most beautiful and amazing places on earth. And every day you are loved by Aina, fed by Aina, and protected by Aina. Part of being a poet in this beautiful place of Hawaii means that you have the awesome kuleana of loving our Aina back with your powerful poems and stories that only you can share with the world. Be thankful, respect and love this beautiful place in all you do, and teach others, even those who are just visiting, to aloha Aina and mālama Aina like you do. And read your poems to the Aina. You'll be surprised by how the Aina may show you, through a light wind or a gentle rain, how much it really means. I'm going to share with you a part of a poem And this poem is called Aina Hanau. I wrote it for my own keiki, Kaikaina Li'i and Ku'ule. This part of the poem shares my wishes for them, but I also want to share that it gives you my wishes for all of you too. E ku'u mau o maka I ke kihapai. May you always know these islands, like you, are more than enough. Know that like you, they are everything beautiful, everything buoyant. Their winds and rains and mountains, ravines and valleys, love without question. Like our islands, may you give birth first to yourselves, then love always with green tenderness, thrusting your hands into mud, opening your body into ocean, knowing these islands are here for you, for your children and their children, knowing we are these islands. For you, may there always be refuge, safety within the walls you reach, behind borders, under flags, and in your own bodies. May you always be grateful for peace, for open harbors not freely entered, for treaties honored, for nothing taken that was not first given, for Evie still unearthed, for new coral growth unbleached, for black cloud cover and trees, breathable air, a beach, stream, or ocean without plastic tangle, or sewage, or toxic seep. I wish you words and medicines that lift and heal, vegetables and fruit from organic earth, free-flowing waters from mountain to ocean, cool and clean, unowned, shared. I wish you ocean, salted rocks and shells that you can taste and hold in your mouth, blades of grass and ridged bark, all coolness and warmth to press to your cheek, to your lips. May you know love in every form, but always in the food you eat. That you love the crust dried poi makes on the skin around your lips, the dark green of luau, the soft steam of ulu, of uala, the way you must slurp the red wild of ohia'ai, all from Aina you've curled your toes into. May you always be full. May there be hiding places to keep you as hidden as you want, climbing places to keep you above, flying places, resting places, low-lying and high cliff caves, more places carved by winds and rains, salt and waves, fragrant jungles, terraced gardens, islands old and still being born, places where you wait for welcome, places that you know are not for you or anyone to enter. May you protect all of those places, and may they protect you. May the wind and waves lift you up, and may you let yourself fly. Wonder from a pali overlook as Iwa or Pueo circle above, or as Kohola or Naia breach through ocean in the distance, about lightness and sky, that you remember you can rise high above whatever may hold you down. May you hear these islands breathe with you. Let them be big enough to carry you, small enough to carry with you. May you know these islands depend on your breath, that the ocean, rains, and winds need your voice, that every green growing thing lives and births more green growing, that there is safety and warmth enough, shade enough when you need it, water, food, shelter, love, that you sleep deeply and let yourself hear our kupuna. May you know smallness, know to be careful and think of unseen workings, to remember the smallest can be the strongest, to feel you are islands like yours, not separated by ocean, but threaded, your roots woven and fed by the same fire and water and salt and darkness. May you know immensity, too, that even when you think you are alone, that you feel the ocean in your sweat and tears, that you watch rain wash the hillsides into a dark stream and see your skin, that the sun, moon, and stars, dark underwater caverns, underground rivers, all you see and don't see of Aina are your kupuna, your ohana, in every breath, that something of you, something of all of us before, and something of all of us to come are these islands. May this always be with you. E ola mau, e ola no. Mahalo.
Our next special guest speaker is a Native American artist, activist, award-winning writer, and a legendary poet. She currently holds the distinction of being the 23rd and current National Poet Laureate of the United States of America, performing 2 poems and sharing her thoughts about what poetry can carry and the timelessness of oral traditions as a way to remember the source of all gifts. It is our pleasure to present the Muskogee Nation's very own Joy Harjo.
Injay Stongo, aloha. I'm Joy Harjo, the 23rd U.S. Poet Laureate, and I'm happy to be here with you. Even if it's virtually, I am here, very present, and here to honor the Hawaii Youth Poet Laureates. I want to start with an excerpt from a poem I wrote for a granddaughter who was becoming. And as young poets, you are becoming. You are becoming as young people who are discovering the power, the magic, and you're discovering what poetry can do, what it can carry, and you're part of a long tradition that goes way back through many ancestral lines. And because of that, I wanted to read this to you. It was a poem written for a granddaughter who was coming of age, but I think of you as coming of age young poets. And it's from For a Girl Becoming. Did you hear us as you traveled from your rainbow house? We called you with thunder, with singing. Did you see us as we gathered in the town beneath the mountains? We were dressed in concern and happiness. We were overwhelmed as you moved through the weft of your mother. Even before you took your first breath, your eyes blinked wide open. Now breathe. And when you breathe, remember the source of the gift of all breathing. And when you walk, remember the source of the gift of all walking. And when you run, remember the source of the gift of all running. And when you laugh, remember the source of the gift of all laughter. And when you cry, remember the source of the gift of all tears. And when you dream, remember the source of the gift of all dreaming. And when your heart is broken, remember the source of the gift of all breaking. And when your heart is put back together, remember the source of all putting back together. Don't forget how you started your journey from that rainbow house, how you traveled and will travel through the mountains and valleys of human tests. There are treacherous places along the way, but you can come to us. There are lakes of tears shimmering sadly there, but you can come to us. And valleys without horses or kindness, but you can come to us. And angry, jealous gods and wayward humans who will hurt you, but you can come to us. You will fall, but you will get back up again because you are one of us. And I read that segment because you are on a journey. You're at the beginning of a journey, maybe in the middle of another journey, but you're at the beginning of the journey of poetry and discovery and of becoming a fully realized human being. As someone who came to this time, to this generation, to this beautiful place you live in, and you're carrying so many gifts. You're carrying gifts of perception, gifts of music, gifts of scientific gifts, gifts of language, all kinds of gifts. Don't ever forget that. You know, poetry helps you remember if you get to a place where you feel lost or despondent, or you wonder how you're going to make it through, or it's too painful or even too happy. You can find poetry. Poetry will find you. And writing. And I'm sure all of you, I've read your wonderful poems. The poetry, I see you can already go to poetry to find mystery, to find solace, to find beauty, to find out what your little brothers, sisters thinking, poetry has many uses. I'm going to read this one called Remember. Now, I was asked to write this poem not long after I started writing poetry, and you guys are lucky you started writing poetry when you're really young, relatively young. And I didn't start writing till I was in my 20s, and I had a daughter, Rainy Dawn, and I had a son. But it was right around the time, my son Phil, it was around the time my daughter was born that I started writing poetry as an art student at the University of New Mexico. And I didn't plan to become a poet. I grew up always drawing, always painting. I love reading poetry, I love music, but I had no idea because the career day fairs, there was never a table for poets. There were no Muskogee Creek poets in our neighborhood. In fact, in Tulsa, I don't remember knowing of any poets around. I knew there were musicians, but I didn't know there were poets. And it wasn't until I was a student, college student at the University of New Mexico, that I first heard like real native poets reading. And I remember meeting Hanani K. Trask, my first Hawaiian poet. And we became good friends and discovered there's poets all over the world, every country, every culture, every community has a poet. We're needed. I was going to say like trees, but that's true. You think about what trees do. I mean, I think trees gather up messages and they hear all kinds of messages from the wind. And poets, we're kind of the truth tellers. We look around and we write about things maybe people are thinking about, but not, they don't have words for. A lot of what we write about in poetry, we can't figure out the words for it. If we were trying to write it out like narrative, but when we go to a poem, to read it or to write it, you take a deep breath and start moving. And this poem came when the word got out in the community that I was writing poetry, and somebody said, we need a poem for young poets coming up, young poets just getting started. And I don't know how this poem came about, except sometimes like this, probably the word remember. It has a certain cadence and rhythm. And so I started writing, and then my spirit, the poetry spirit, started helping me. What is it we need to remember? And so I will end with this poem with asking you, what is it that you need to remember? What is it that you're carrying? What are the stories that you're carrying? You have a lot of exploration to do. You're just beginning. Keep your heart open. Keep your minds open. Always walk forward with compassion and a sense of beauty, even when you're involved in conflict or pain. Always try to have that perspective. Remember the sky you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon, know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn, that is the strongest point of time. Remember sundown and the giving away tonight. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father, he is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are, red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them. Listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember that you are all people and all people are you. Remember that you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember that all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember that language comes from this. Remember. Remember. So I feel like that poem was given to me. Yes, I got out my tools, my pen, my time. Time is a tool. My time, my quiet, and I sat there with it. I had to help construct a house for it, and useful construction was repetition. And I listened, and that poem has walked beside me my whole journey of becoming a poet. And I'm reading it here for you so that maybe it will walk beside you and help you to remember who you are and the importance of your being and why you are here and what you have to contribute as a young poet. Thank you, Mado. Mahalo nui loa.
One of the youngest Youth Poet Laureate participants in this competition, Corian Williams, comes to us from Paoa Valley. His poetry speaks to the genealogy of resiliency and leadership. He begins with an oli asking for the granting of knowledge. Please welcome Corian.
My name is Corian Williams. I represent Stevenson Middle School in Hawaii. I am inspired by my dad. I believe in the fact that the earth can be a better place. My name is Corian Williams. This piece I have for you today is called The Greatness in Me. Here we go. E ho mai, ka ike mai, luna mai, o nā mea, huna no e au, o nā mele, e ho mai, e ho mai, e ho mai. Just like the goddess Pele erupt in fire, I step to the mic with a fiery verse that scorched the earth. My poetry heats hearts. I'm a living, breathing work of art. I fight hard to win my wrestling and judo matches. Like Thurgood Marshall fought to end segregation in American schools. I have the vision to solve any math problem. Like Vivian Thomas had the vision for a heart procedure that saved the lives of blue babies. Martin Luther King Jr., I have a dream speech, told the nation to rise above segregation. I will rise above the hatred, letting the world know Black Lives Matter. I free myself from the evil of being bad and bullied, just like Harriet Tubman freed slaves using the Underground Railroad. I won't let the history of Hawaii die, just like King Kalakaua wouldn't let hula die. The missionaries banned hula. King Kalakaua said, let them dance on my birthday, which became the Merry Monarch Festival. I'll be strong and fearless like King Kamehameha, the first chief to unite all Hawaiian islands. I lift my weighted ball like King Kamehameha lifted the Naha stone. I will always be proud, fighting, working for what I want and believe in. Like Malcolm X, he told the people during the Civil Rights Movement, no one can give you freedom, equality, justice, or anything. If you're a man, you can and will take it. I'm going to show the world who I am once COVID blows by. I'm the kid with dope words that looks so fly. I'm going to be the longest reigning poetry champ in history. No one will beat me, not even Z. They're going to call me Kid BPE, best poet ever. I'm going to be an OG in the poetry community. This is all the greatness I have in me. Psych, there's more. These are the greatest people in the world to me besides my mom and dad. I use the greatness my ancestors give me in my everyday life. My ancestors are the greatness in my body and soul. They are the reason I can never give up. I must always try. I know they are watching me up in the sky.
The poet in this next video is the only Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate finalist to join us from the Garden Island of Kauai. Here to introduce herself, share her inspirations, and perform her poem entitled Ode to the Moon, please direct your attention to Eliana Pimentel.
Hi, my name is Eliana. I'm representing Kauai. I'm inspired by my mom and all the people I meet who are so creative in different ways. And yeah, that's me. I wake up to you in the morning, stark white against the blue-eyed sky, sometimes full, sometimes half, sometimes barely there at all. I think we relate in that way. I feel like I'm barely there at all too. But I like it best when you're full. I wish you were always full. You deserve to be the brightest version of yourself right now and forever. You inspire me to be full and bright. Thank you. I hope the night is good to you. I hope the morning holds you tight. I hope you find peace in the solitude. I hope you find solidarity in the sun. It's okay to go through phases. How else could you ever be whole? Quiet beauty, that's what you are. So unaware of the effect you have on others. Do you know how people stare at you? Do you see how people admire you? I admire you too, you know. I bet it's hard to pay attention, but try. Look how loved you are.
Up next to introduce herself and share her poem is Mika Hiroi. Her poem, Familiar, is a powerful statement that bares its teeth. Please give it up for Mika.
Hello, I'm Mika Hiroi. I represent Mililani Oʻahu and Punahou School. I was inspired to write these poems by the turmoil in the world around me. I was also inspired by the actions of people now and throughout history. I believe that words have the power to inspire others. Hello, I'm Mika Hiroi, and I'll be reading my poem, Familiar. The fall, decline, collapse, whatever they choose to call it. It's always the same story. Fall, decline, collapse only means chaos in how it decides to decimate its people. From the outside, the inside, and all around. We saw it start at the top, an obvious target, but perhaps the reaching fingers of fear and disquiet have infiltrated, have been marinating all throughout for longer than we've known. Look and see what pecks and pesters from outside. A famine? A drought? A plague crowned with panic to ravage the ones within. And the war, the hate, from them, the other ones. It beats upon our brow. The outside world comes, teeth bared. But how could it know that the real rot is already inside? Cracks run through an already broken people, already shuddering but endlessly hiding. Smiles are plastered over a well of tears. A cheery voice weighs down on everyone who wants to scream, to break down. Everyone. Suppression, depression, regression, all in rapid succession, all calling to that inevitable. Fall, decline, collapse. Pick one. It's all the same now. Numb. Repress, conceal, bury. Pick one. None of it is designed to mend disunity. The only thing done in unison is waiting. Waiting for someone to take charge, something to be the voice of reason, some place where it might make sense again. Just before the fall, decline, collapse, the people gaze across the divide, glaring, screaming, crying, and blaming it all on someone else. They walk backwards into the welcoming arms of something they cannot see, and they beg for, fight for, a remedy. Watch it shrivel and curl into itself. Watch it mold over. The laurels dry out and crumble. The castles are eaten by the sea. The eagle falls from the sky.
Our final poet of the program is also the youngest Youth Poet Laureate participant, hailing from Maui, Haiku's very own Annabella Charles, with her poem entitled Night Marchers.
My name is Annabella. I represent Haiku Hawaii. I am inspired by others around me, and I believe in doing what's right. My name is Annabella, and the title of my poem is The Night Marchers. The time of the night marchers has returned, bringing sadness and despair with it. I lie on a wooden beam with my head turned to the floor and my knees bent like broken pieces of paper. Burnt, blistering flames surround me like a string of lights. A conch is blown and a drum is played. The day is done. And I pray to see one last ray of sunlight as the voices of the dead surround me like a blanket of snow. I look up at the dead, realizing that every person holds a story. I feel as if I am in a book as I stare at their hollowed-out faces withered away by time that tells a truth so powerful it throws me back into reality. I jolt back in fear as I hear their screams, sounding like elbow joints not oiled for centuries. I wait for a while, feeling like I am stuck in a time lock. Then they disappear, and all is right in the world again. All my emotions have evaporated into pieces of the stained glass window. I almost start to hope they come back, because I know they will.
After 5 months of online poetry workshops every week and a search, tireless, for the first ever Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate, we have today here on stage 6 of the 11 finalists. We have 4 runners-up, we have 1 winner of the program, and we have certificates for everybody else. So our first runner-up, please put your hands together and recognize L. Kensington Ono. For our second runner-up, please put your hands together and acknowledge Harley Walters. And then not here in attendance today, our 2 other runner-ups is Shay Nolan and Rachel Wagoner. Which means our winner for our first ever Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate program, competition, and challenge is none other than Lua Bowman. Make some noise for Lua, please. So Lua is our first ever Hawaii Youth Poet Laureate. We'd also like to recognize everyone else on stage that are finalists as well. This includes Annabelle Charles. Make some noise for Annabella, you guys. And Corian Williams. And Mika Heroi. It's been an awesome 5 months experience teaching these poetry workshops and uplifting the voices of these young poets. We would like to thank all of the participants in this year's Youth Poet Laureate competition and program, everyone that's come and sat in on our workshops online for all the Zoom rooms, all the parents and teachers who have made this moment possible. Thank you very much. We would love to continue to work with you guys, all of you, next year and beyond. Thank you very much.